One of my favorite cartoons is Peanuts, because usually they have something significant to pass on to us as far as a moral or whatever. And remember, there's one time the Peanuts cartoon depicted Linus, who made the mistake of confessing to his older sister Lucy that he wanted to be a doctor when he grew up. Lucy was astonished at the brother's declaration that he wanted to be a doctor. She said, "You, a doctor? That's a laugh. You could never be a doctor. You know why? Because you don't love humankind." Young Linus immediately responded, "I do too love humankind. It's people I can't stand." A lot of truth in that, isn't it? It's easy to love people in a general way. I love humanity. I love all people, whatever color, creed, or background. But sometimes, even though we've had compassion for the poor and the downtrodden, we're against sexism and racism and all kinds of isms. But when it comes to loving an individual, the person across from us, the family member that we're feuding with, the unfriendly neighbor, the fellow employee that's difficult to work with, the man in the car ahead of us, or the person ahead of us at the checkout counter, when it comes to these, it's difficult to love them. Today is Trinity Sunday, and we emphasize the unity of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It's all about relationships. Through baptism, as the Gospel says, we are brought into a relationship with the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We've been called into a communion, a unity, a family with God the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And He in turn reminds us that through baptism, we're all children of God. We're all heirs of the heavenly kingdom. We're all brothers and sisters. And we're called upon to treat one another with the kind of love and compassion, patience that God has for us. We can't do it on our own because we're too weak. So we have to admit it, that I need God to help me love people as I should, to love all children of God. And on this Feast of the Holy Trinity, we're reminded how dependent we are upon God's grace in order to do that. Sometimes we have a tendency to keep a list, maybe, of the people that we have grudges against or vendettas. People have offended us. I don't think we actually write it out. We don't write out a list, Joe Blow, so on and so forth. But I think we keep a list up here, and sometimes down here, against the people that we have issues with. As we travel through the seas of time, I think we are tending to keep a list, and as we grow older, I think the list gets longer. But the Lord is saying to us, don't keep a list, because that list will poison your heart. It does nothing to make a situation better. It only damages you. There's a story told about a man who was bitten by a dog, and the dog had rabies. And so after this man learned that this dog that bit him had rabies, he began to make a list. The doctor told him, listen, he said, there's no need to make a will. This rabies can be cured. Oh, I'm not making a will, said the man. I'm making a list of all the people I want to bite. Silly. But yet, sometimes we like to bite somebody's head off that offended us and keep a list. What the Lord is calling you and I to do today, you know what He's calling us to do? Is even though we don't have that list written out, to intentionally take the list from our mind and heart and lay it at the foot of the cross. Take that list out of my mind and my heart, lay it at the foot of the cross. People that have offended me and hurt me, the people that I like to see hurt, I have wanted to see hurt because they hurt me. Lay that list at the foot of the cross. Let God take care of those people. Get rid of the poison out of my heart and let the Lord, through the power of the Holy Trinity, fill our hearts with peace, with light where there's darkness, where there's serenity. I need serenity, I need peace, and so do you. And we can't have it if we're carrying a list in our hearts and minds against the people that offended us. It's what you call simply two things: let go and let God. Let go and let God. Let go of the list and let God take care of it. We're living in times that there's a lot of division, a lot of violence this past year or so, a lot of division because of the pandemic, but also it seems like a lot of evil surfaced during this last year. The political climate of our country, I would say, has been one of the most troubled times in history politically. These last campaigns, a lot of hatred, a lot of vindictiveness, a lot of viciousness from all sides, not one side or the other, all sides. The Lord is saying it's time to let go of that. Violence. Look at what happened this last year. There's violence, racism, intolerance, cancel culture, cancel out people who disagree with you. Our country has had a history of that. We fought a war in the 1800s, 1861 to 1865. The Civil War was fought to overcome division. And they divided the country, north and south, slavery, pro-slavery, anti-slavery. A lot of woundedness in our country. We're still suffering from the effects of a lot of it. Abraham Lincoln, who I have a great admiration for, in 1863 wrote of an effective remedy. He said, an effective remedy for the national ills, for all people and all nations. A remedy, a cure to the sickness of evil that pervades a society when there is violence and hatred and racism, division. He said, "We have forgotten the gracious hand which preserved us in peace and multiplied and enriched and strengthened us, and have vainly imagined in the deceitfulness of our hearts that all these blessings were produced by some superior wisdom and virtue of our own. Intoxicated with unbroken success, we have become too self-sufficient to feel the necessity of redeeming and preserving grace of God, too proud to pray to the God that made us." And then he concluded, "It behooves us then to humble ourselves before the offended power, to confess our personal and national sins, and to pray to the God who made us." Yes, to humbly come this morning on this feast of the Holy Trinity and to admit that we've been part of the problems, of the divisions in our families and our neighborhoods, at work, because of the list we've kept in our hearts. I lay that list before the Lord today. And I trust that He'll fill my emptiness with light and your emptiness with light and peace. It's time to leave a list here and to be changed. To the power of the Father who loves us and created us, to the power of the Son who redeemed us and saved us by the blood of His cross, and to the power of the Holy Spirit that comes to animate us and invigorate us and energize us to be children of God, heirs of the kingdom of heaven.